That happened this year for ozone. We're in our first year with the new ozone standard. And that standard is 75 parts per billion, if I can hit it right here, is the standard. So that's where the end of the yellow moderate range ends. It's supposed to be okay up through 75. And once you're 76 or above, then you're above the standard, and that's when you start having health problems. And due to that fact, we have to determine for each monitor we have out there, can they meet that standard or not? If they can, good. If they can't, we're in trouble in ways. So here's our monitors for Western North Carolina. This is where we monitor for ozone. And we have 3 valley sites: Bryson City, Waynesville, Bent Creek, which is just south of Asheville. Okay, and then we have where the triangles are. This is actually one operated by the Cherokee, and it's currently not really running very well. So we have Mount Mitchell, Purchase Knob, Frying Pan, and right here we have a 4th one called Joanna Bald, which is to help represent, each one of these monitors is to help represent a specific ecological area, a class 1 area, except for Mount Mitchell, and that's because it's a state park, but this is for the Joyce Kilmer Forest. So that's where we're monitoring. So we've got high elevation sites above 4,000 feet in elevation, then we have valley sites where most of us live and breathe. So the new standard 75, if you're 76 or over, you're not meeting that standard. So how are we doing? Here's our report card. The valley sites are all fine. We're below 75 on all of them. Bryson City is the cleanest ozone monitor in the state. Cleaner than any of the ones along the coast even. Okay, but when we get up higher, we have a problem. They're all over that 76. So I want to get a little more technical right now. With ozone, it's a summertime pollutant. It forms with sunshine, has to provide the energy for that reaction to take place in the atmosphere. And typically ozone's very low at dawn, starts coming up because now we have that energy from the sun providing reactions, peaks late afternoon, goes down, and gets low again by the following day. And that's exactly what we see at our valley sites. We see that diurnal flux is the term everybody likes to use. So at our ridgetop sites, we have our exceedances about 2 in the morning. Because, I'm sure there are better meteorologists here than I am, but in the evenings as we start to have a boundary layer form, ozone is trapped above it. The ozone trap below it will bounce into things and react. Ozone reacts very quickly. It's looking for something to oxidize, hopefully not the tissue in your lung. But it will react quickly. But if it's isolated above that boundary layer, especially at those higher elevation sites, that's where we're seeing then that ozone gets to be higher during the night than it is during daytime. So it's kind of the opposite of what's going on at our low elevation sites. If you want to hit the worst ozone around here, typically you want to go up on top of Mount Mitchell about 2 in the morning. That's when the concentration is going to peak. And due to that, and a lot of that's transported, and we do a lot of analysis, backward trajectories, etc., to determine, and we call some of them Charlotte events, we call some of them Knoxville events, we call some of them Atlanta events. But these areas are all going to be designated non-attainment to some extent or another by EPA. And that has certain implications. But here's the trends. And we've got all of the sites piled up there, and the yellow line is kind of an overall average between the valleys and the ridgetops. But as you can see, we were doing pretty good. We're getting a nice downward trend, and then we bumped up in 2005 through 2007. Through some of these years, we had nice, wet, relatively cool summers. That keeps ozone down. We started hitting drier, hotter summers here. It bumped up. But I was really relieved to see it starting to come down again last year, because last year was a hot, dry summer. But we are still seeing reductions now again in ozone, and I think it will continue on that downward slope, at least I hope so. But that's the trend we're seeing now in Western North Carolina. Improvement, but not uninterrupted improvement. We occasionally get a blip in that. But the hope is that we'll continue to improve. So, what we have to do, if we're not achieving the standard set by EPA for ozone, is send in recommendations saying, okay, we think you should declare these areas non-attainment, and EPA reviews that. They actually will come out in November and tell us if they agreed with our recommendations. Then in March of 2010, they're going to tell us where the lines are drawn. This has big implications for business and industry because where those lines are drawn affect how much it costs to open up a business or expand one that emits anything in the atmosphere. So here's what the state looks like under the new ozone standard. You can see the triangle. This is actually the Rocky Mount area. The triangle, the triad, Charlotte, and Hickory all went. That's Fayetteville. All of those areas will be designated non-attainment, and they may even be expanded by EPA. Just to give you numbers, through here they're running in the low 80s. Charlotte has a monitor over 90. They have yet to attain the old standard before the standard before EPA tightened up the new one. So this is going to be a challenge. They're just barely over. Hickory's only over by a couple. But you can see out here we decided to get creative on what we recommend because our valley sites are all attaining. So a better close-up would show you here. Here's Mount Mitchell. This is the area that we would declare non-attainment for Mount Mitchell, and all of that's over 4,000 feet in elevation. Okay, the Black Mountain's over 4,000 feet. Here are the Great Balsams over 4,000 feet. And that's for the Frying Pan Monitor, which is very near the Pisgah Inn. It's just a little further on down the parkway. Coming over here, we have a very small amount of the Snowbird Mountains over 4,000 feet, so we just went with that. The entire park will be designated non-attainment. We have a monitor right here, it's Purchase Knob, and it's over, but the numbers are really high on the Tennessee side. Knoxville's non-attainment for PM 2.5 as well as for ozone, and is having problems. Of course, a lot of that bad air blows up against them and stays there, so in ways we should be grateful that they're having it worse than us, I guess. Hopefully they'll clean up too. So any questions on ozone now?
What exactly does non-attainment mean?
Okay, non-attainment means you're failing to attain the standard, but what happens if an area is non-attainment? Your businesses have to put on more expensive controls if they want to expand or open up a new facility that's emitting a criteria pollutant that we cover under these rules. We have lower levels at which we trigger people into requiring controls on existing facilities. We have what we call transportation conformity. Every transportation plan for the state has to go through analysis, and you have to show that your new highway plan will not cause a problem for air quality improving enough to achieve the new standard. If you can't do that, and it's all done through computer modeling, if that doesn't do that, you do not get your federal highway funds. And that's probably the biggest, scariest part of it for lots of folks. And Atlanta's been through that, and they had to redesign a couple of roads 3 or 4 times before they finally could pass their transportation conformity test. And for us, a lot of people think that it's, what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of a black eye to be an area where you go for recreation and an environment, etc. Could be designated non-attainment because that's an implication that maybe we're not such a healthy, great area for recreation. But that is an issue. But with the modeling we submitted to EPA showing us, well, number one, a lot of this is due to transport. It's happening in the middle of the night at high elevations. We hope they do not decide that they want to expand the areas we recommended. Stay tuned, you just never know. They could declare they could declare every county that touches that non-attainment area non-attainment. Yes, sir.
On the valley monitors, do you see changes in levels between weekdays and weekends?
Not statistically. We've looked at that, and because some places they have shown, like in larger cities,